memorized a 1,000-digit sequence in only 1 hour. I memorized 10 separate decks of playing cards in an hour. On May 1st of this year, I did a memory demonstration. It was on NBC News at one point where people called out any random year between 1875 and 2009, and I immediately told them the name of the winning horse, the winning jockey, and the time that it took them to win the race, down to 100th of a second for the Kentucky Derby. So I mean, that's just another example of the types of things you can do when you've mastered these techniques and you're filing things away properly in your mind.
All right, cool, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for the talk. Do you know if it's possible to develop a photographic memory?
So I've read extensively on this. Supposedly there's no such thing as a photographic memory, at least not in the way that we think of it as it's portrayed in the movies. They've done many studies to prove that there isn't a photographic memory. They will take people, they'll have them come in, people that have extraordinary memory ability, right? Say for numbers, for instance. And they'll show that person a grid of numbers. And they will say, go ahead and memorize this. Recall the grid from top to bottom, left to right, and they record that time, right? Then they say to the person, okay, now recall that number sequence diagonally, all right? And they record the time, and it's significantly longer. So if this were actually a photographic image that they were looking at in their mind, the recall time should be approximately the same. So what that proves is the person is actually, and they have extraordinary memory, they're actually recording it in their mind in some way that's meaningful to them, but it's not photographic image. Another study, they've taken people with extraordinary memory ability, and they will splatter some dots onto a page. There's no meaning at all to it, right? And they'll take the page away and say, okay, perfectly reproduce the splattering dots. No one's ever been able to do that. So it's not a photographic image that they're looking at. Another thing, chess players have amazing memory for the places on the board, right? When they give chess players a board that has some sort of meaning in chess, and they take it away and ask them to reproduce it, they can do it. When they give them another board that has no meaning, that would have no meaning, make no sense in a chess game, they can't put the pieces back in the right place. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I was wondering about how this process scales when you're dealing with different kinds of information or even just different scales of information. For example, would you use the same techniques if you were going to study physics for 4 years and wanted to remember all of it?
Yes. So I teach in the home study course and in my workshop. One of the things I cover is college course material. And I cover some complex type concepts. One thing I teach specifically in the course is how to memorize that convection is the transfer of heat from an area of higher temperature to an area of lower temperature. It's always basically coming up with an image or series of images that remind you of what you want to remember. In this case, I will always remember that fact because I see in my mind an image of a convention. The convention reminds me of convection, right? So I see convention, it consists of 2 levels, right? There's people up here on the higher level, people up here on the lower area, 2 areas, right? And at each area I see a thermometer to remind me of temperature, right? And then a fire breaks out at the top level and people are screaming when the fire breaks out. That reminds me of heat. And the fire transfers from the higher area and the people at the bottom start getting burned and they're running around. So that image, it's a crazy, funny image. I have it stored away in a journey, which is another technique that I teach in the course. So I see that there and it reminds me that convection is the transfer of heat from an area of higher temperature to an area of lower temperature. So even complex concepts can be memorized using these types of techniques. Hopefully that answered it.
I wanted to ask, if and when you find yourself making a mistake, say you blank on a series of numbers or you're straining to catch the connection to the next, what is it that goes through your head, or what is it that you do to mitigate that problem in the future? Or what is the binding point where you get stuck?
Yeah, so again, really just trying to relax yourself goes a long way. And it's about the initial encoding. So if you're reviewing it and you're finding that you're forgetting it, again, really get additional senses involved. If you do that, it becomes very easy to remember.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a difference in what language to use to remember stuff. I mean, my mother tongue is not English, but I was perfectly able to recall the words, for instance. So is there any difference in using my mother tongue or English?
As long as you can picture whatever it is, if you can create an image in your mind and see that image, then these techniques will work for you.
But still, the English word would be tied to it and not the German.
So I'm not asking you to see the words, right?
Okay.
I'm asking you to see an image.
Okay, makes sense.
So if you're, if somebody said to you monkey in whatever language, as long as you're seeing the image, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so you did have a little trouble at the end there remembering. So could you possibly take us through your slight journey to remember that particular sequence? Because you were chunking in 3-digit pieces.
Yeah, so this is...
you've got some kind of technique to get 3-digit.
Yeah, so I'll go through it very, very quickly. A lot of it's not going to make sense to you at this point because you don't know the system.
Yeah,
so I teach a system that allows you to take any number sequence and create an image from that sequence. And because I've competed in the World Memory Championship, I have an image in my mind associated with every possible 3-digit sequence. So so there's 1,000 images that I have stored in my mind. So whenever I see a 3-digit sequence, automatically this image comes to my mind. So 958 is this person I know from high school named Belva. 661 is this girl who in my mind is very jaded. That's what 611, sorry, 611. 611 is jaded. And then 720 is this guy I know from my tennis club named Cons. And then 838 is earmuffs. But it's, whenever I see those sequences, those images come to my mind. So it comes with training. It's very easy for anyone to do, but it's going to take a little training. Most people, you'll start out with 00 through 99. You'll come up with 100 images. And that's the first thing that I teach you in the home study course. Yeah.
So what's 557?
It's a lilac.
I was wondering in case you had tried any supplements or drugs to boost memory, such as vasopressin or acetylcholine boosters, and your thoughts on those.
Okay, so, we are very, very serious in these memory competitions. So, I do try to take things that have been shown to improve your memory. I mean, I'll tell you what I take starting 6 weeks prior to competition. Well, every day I take a multivitamin because, the idea is healthy body, healthy mind. But closer to competition, I will start taking B vitamin complex to improve concentration. I'll also take fish oil because your brain is composed of omega-3 fatty acids. It's very important to proper brain function. I don't eat too much fish or seafood, so I really need to take that. I also take ginkgo biloba, which has been shown to increase the flow of blood to the brain. So those are some things that I take. I do know some people take choline tablets, which choline is a precursor to acetylcholine, which is important to memory and learning in the brain. I don't personally take that, but anyway,
Okay.
that's my answer.
Hi, awesome talk. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks.
I can barely remember my own phone number because I've offloaded almost everything onto a PDA or like a text file or whatever. So I'm curious, one, like what your thought about technology and just like being lazy and let the muscles atrophy. Like, how were you thinking about that? But two, I could see maybe learning how to index these things. Like maybe I could use your techniques to like actually find the data. But I think by now I'm like way too out of shape to remember more than,
Yeah,
I
so
remember.
you've brought up a good point. I often talk about that point is, we all used to have the ability to remember so many phone numbers of our friends and family members, right? But now with the cell phone, we can't, if you're asked to remember one number, you start freaking out. Oh, no, I got to write it down, right? And that's because you're so used to entering things into the phone. But this proves, I have 1 minute left, this proves the use it or lose it principle, though, all right? If you use your memory, it will get better. If you don't use it, it will decay. One last thing about the class, home study course workshop. Actually, forget that. Just give me the form either way. Bring it up here, set it on the table, or if you don't have a chance to do that, I will be in the back. Give me the forms. Even if you don't want to order anything, I want at least the evaluation of the talk. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that marine phytoplankton is another thing that you can take to improve your mind and body, all that sort of stuff.
What was it?
Marine phytoplankton. It comes in a little bottle.
Oh,
Real
okay.
simple to take, and it's better than anything else that you've ever done.
Great. I'll look for
It's
it.
full of ATP, which is cell food, and it kicks off growth inhibitors growth factors in your brain.
Cool.
So it's really good stuff.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I had a quick question about people who have certain senses that they don't work. So a person who's blind, because visualization is so important. Have you ever studied or have you tried to work with people who have some, hearing disability, speech disability, visualization disability, and how that affects their memory with these techniques?
Yeah, so, with the blind, it depends. Okay. Again, if they can picture it.
Step to the back and have discussion in the back. That would be fine.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Smart.